Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohamed Faheem, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohamed Faheem.
Good morning, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Lightning Strike. Today is July 26th, early in the morning. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to join the conversation today, the number to call in is 773-763-9278. Please mark that number down, and we will be happy to take your calls. That segment is called as What's on Your Mind, and it is sponsored by our good friend Ray Hanania of Hanania.com. And Ray is joining the conversation today. Good morning, Ray.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Mike, Chris, Mohammed, everybody at the studio.
Thank you. Good morning, Mike, and good morning, Chris.
Good morning. Nice to be here again.
Yes, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Okay, so I want to talk about a couple of things today, folks. And it is so important for you to pay attention to what is happening in the country. I've got a $30 million question. Who is really choosing Michigan's next senator? I mean, this has got national implications for us. And I believe the number has gone up from 30 to like $50 million. But this is the lightning strike, okay, where we don't tell you what to think. We ask questions that too many politicians and too much of the media refuse to ask. Today, let us travel to Michigan. Not because it's just another Senate race, okay? Not because it's another battle between the Democrats and the Republicans, but because what is happening in Michigan may determine whether American elections are still decided by voters or by money. Here is what we know so far. Michigan Democrats are choosing their nominee for the United States Senate. On one side is Congresswoman Haley Stevens. On the other is Dr. Abdul El Sayed, a physician, former public health official, and a progressive Democrat. Normally, this would be a debate over health care, jobs, education, and the economy, right? Instead, it has become a debate over one simple question. Can tens of millions of dollars from outside organizations reshape an election before voters even cast their ballots? According to multiple national news organizations, organizations aligned with the AIPAC have spent nearly $30 million, and I'm hearing this morning that it is close to $50 million supporting Haley Stevens and opposing Abdul El Sayed. Let's stop right there, okay? $30 million, $50 million, millions of dollars, right? Not in a presidential election, not in a national campaign, in one Democratic Senate primary. Think about that. How many teachers could $30 million hire, folks? How many roads could it repair? How many scholarships could it provide? Instead, it is being spent on television commercials, digital ads, mailers, consultants, and political messaging. Now, before anyone starts accusing us of taking sides, let me make something clear. This is not about whether you support Haley Stevens. This is not whether you support Abdul El Sayed. This is not even about whether you support Israel or Palestine. This is about whether American democracy can survive when enormous sums of money flood into a single election. Because today it may be AIPAC, tomorrow it may be big oil, right? The pharmaceutical industry, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, or any other special interest with enough money to dominate the conversation. That is the question. If you believe democracy belongs to the people, then this question should concern every American. Republican, Democrat, Independent, everyone. Here is another fact. The latest polling shows Haley Stevens with a narrow lead, okay? Early polls showed that the race was essentially tied. Can anyone say with certainty that the outside spending caused that shift? Not really, right? Nobody can. Elections are influenced by many factors, as you all know. Candidate quality, campaign, organization, endorsements, media coverage, debates, ground game, and yes, advertising. But can anyone seriously argue that spending tens of millions of dollars has no effect? Of course not. Advertising works. If it didn't, companies wouldn't spend billions every year trying to influence consumers. Political campaigns understand exactly the same principle. Michigan is also very unique. It has one of the largest Arab populations in the United States, one of the largest Muslim communities, a significant Jewish population. And since the war in Gaza began, emotions have run deep across every community. For many voters, this election is about much more than party politics. It is about foreign policy, human rights, military aid, free speech, and America's role in one of the world's most painful conflicts, folks. That makes Michigan ground zero for a national political battle. Supporters of Haley Stevens argue that she is the strongest candidate to keep the Senate seat in Democratic hands. Supporters of Abdul El Sayed argue that grassroots organizers should not be overwhelmed by unprecedented outside spending. Those are legitimate political arguments, but here is the question I want every listener to consider. If one organization can spend $30 million in one primary, what happens when another organization spends $50 million or $100 million? At what point do ordinary citizens become spectators in their own democracy? Because here's something politicians rarely admit, okay? Your vote still counts, but your attention is constantly being purchased. Every commercial you see, every political text message, every glossy mailer, every social media advertisement, someone paid to put it there. The real marketplace today isn't just ideas. It is attention. And attention has become one of the most expensive commodities in American politics. The Supreme Court has ruled that independent expenditures are protected political speech. Whether you agree or disagree with those decisions, they are the law. But legality and wisdom are not always the same thing. Americans have every right to ask whether our campaign finance system still reflects the principle of one person, one vote, or whether it increasingly resembles $1, one vote. This isn't a partisan issue, folks. It is an American issue. Whether the money comes from the left, the right, corporations, or advocacy organizations, the questions remain exactly the same. Who should choose our elected officials? You and I, the voters, or those with the deepest pockets? Michigan will soon provide an answer. It's like a week and 10 days to go now for the elections. But this story doesn't end in Michigan, because if $30 million becomes the new normal in Senate primaries, every competitive election in America will become another arms race. More money, more advertising, more outside influence, more distrust, and less confidence that ordinary citizens can compete with extraordinary wealth. Our democracy deserves better than that, folks. The Constitution begins with 3 simple words: we, the people. not we, the wealthy, not we, the best funded, not we, the highest bidder, the people, you and I. Every election should remind us of that simple truth. Whether you're voting for Haley Stevens, whether you're voting for Abdul El Sayed, or whether you're supporting someone else entirely, the decision belongs to Michigan voters. Not to the loudest television commercial, not to the biggest checkbook, and certainly not to whichever outside organization can spend the most money. That is the question Michigan is asking today. The rest of America should be paying very close attention, because what happens there may soon happen everywhere. I'm Mohamed Faheem, and that is today's Lightning Strike. I'd like to welcome my panel back into the conversation. Good morning, guys. Let's see what you say. Okay, let's start with Chris this time. Hey, Chris.
Good morning. Thank you. This topic seems to be fairly popular, I guess. I just read the latest article by David Sirota of Lever News. If you all aren't subscribers to him, you ought to. He's the only real investigative journalist we've got in America at the moment.
Hey, you're forgetting about me now.
Well, yes, and of course you. Of course
and
you.
Ray.
And Ray, yes. But you know,
okay.
we're still down here. David Sirota is a little bit bigger than us, you know. He's a little bit more well known. But he was also talking about this, and he mentioned something very similar, but he also brought in the fact that Whitmer's father was a longtime CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois, and that's why she is supporting Haley Stevens over Abdul El Sayed, because he's in favor of Medicare for all, and that will eat into the profits of Blue Cross Blue Shield, and of course all of the insurance companies. So it's very interesting to get all these different perspectives, where the money's coming from, who it's going to, who it's supporting. So it's very timely. Once again, Mohammed, you're right on the leading edge of what's going out there.
Well, I try to keep my ear to the ground, Chris. And
You do.
most important thing is that a lot of people are not paying attention. People are just so sick and tired of trying to put food on the table and take care of their basic needs, while we go and we recently approved what, 1 some trillion dollars for the Pentagon, for the military, while people are, oh God, don't even get me started on that thing. But folks, if you want to join the conversation, the number to call in is 773-763-9278 or WCPT. You can also text us at that number, and we'll be happy to read out your text to you. And by the way, Abdul El Sayed will be joining us in the second hour at 9:10 for a conversation with Congresswoman Murray Newman. Listen to him, and please make sure that you pay attention to what's happening. Ray, I want your take on this.
Well, you know what? When I was young, my intent was to become a doctor, like my uncles and my cousins. I have a lot of doctors in my family. If you go to Christ Hospital, you probably run into one of them. But I got caught up during the Vietnam War, and I was watching TV about the Arab-Israeli War, and I noticed how poorly the Arab media, the Arab view was being presented in the American media, and it woke me up. And since 1975, I've been in journalism, much to the shame of my parents, who were from the Middle East and said, you know, all journalists are hacks. So how could you embarrass us like that? But I've spent my entire life, past 50 years now, over 50 years, in journalism, and I've tried to always be independent, and I've learned a lot of things. The media, it's not about control. It's about gatekeeping. It's like having an invisible fence for a dog. The dog learns not to cross the line, except in this case, it's not the dog, it's media. The media learns not to cross the line. And there always have been some types of limitations on media. So we have what I call the corralled independent media. We don't have an independent media. That's how they control us. You can't say control, but you can say corralled and pressured. I think the Arab community is a big victim of this because we're a victim of the politics. We've never appreciated the media, so we feed into that problem. We make it worse by not understanding the media. Instead of becoming journalists, we become activists. Or instead of becoming journalists, we go on social media today and express our opinion. But social media is one of the biggest controllers of independent media today. Facebook, YouTube, they have limitations, and you only feel those limitations when they don't like you or they don't like what you're talking about. So most people don't even realize that these limitations exist. But I'll do a quick list real fast of the different types of problems. Indirect government control through threats and money. Media publishers, they have their biases. Community rivalries is the biggest one. Communities that are victims of media bias fight with each other instead of realizing that it's the way they're portrayed rather than individual differences. Social media, like I said, is not really media. That's a misnomer. It's misleading. Social media is a platform where you can hate somebody, call somebody names, or speak to your choir, but you really don't reach the public the way an independent media does. The economy of today's media is so bad. If you wanted to be a journalist, you couldn't make a living being a journalist anymore the way you could when I got into journalism in 1975. And the thing is that government protects itself and money protects itself. So, as you were pointing out, money in elections, that's a control of the media. That's a control of the voices. And it's kind of terrible because one of the things I did was we had an Arab Journalism Association, and about 10 just before September 11th, I'd say about maybe 4 years before, we did a study and we identified 120 Arab and Muslim independent media in the United States. Today, there are only 15.
Wow.
We've been shut out by two reasons. One, the hate that's directed against us every day and the lack of understanding. And by the fact that we have been gravitating towards social media, thinking that's an acceptable way to communicate. And honestly, it's not. If I was going to say one thing about Abdul Sayed, he's a great candidate. He doesn't understand the media. He doesn't understand how to communicate himself. He talks on social media, but I bet he doesn't understand how to write a basic press release because the fundamentals of the media have not changed. If you understand the who, what, when, where, and how, and you can put a press release together or a coherent statement, you can be very, very effective. We've
I'm so
lost
glad
that.
you brought out that point, Ray. Social media is basically like you just mentioned, preaching to the choir. Okay,
Yes.
I am a member of like maybe about 30 or 40 different WhatsApp groups, and you should see some of the keyboard warriors in those WhatsApp groups.
And if you
Okay,
say something, they get more mad at you
yeah.
than they do about the issue you're trying to raise.
Well, let's bring in Mike into this conversation. So, folks, again, you're tuned in to the Lightning Strike. I'm your host, Mohamed Faheem, with my team over here, Chris Hilbert, Mike Patino. Ray Hanania joins us as a guest host at very short notice most of the time. Thank you so much, Ray. And in
No
the
problem.
second hour, Congresswoman Murray Newman would be joining us, along with legislative attorney Maria Muzaffar with her take. And there's going to be an interview with Abdul El Sayed. So, Mike, what say you? You're muted, Mike. Mike's mic is muted.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay,
Uh,
finally.
I, I have to agree with you, of course. You're right on point, impression as usual, and Ray too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're fooling ourselves on social media that we're actually making a difference on social media.
Right.
You know, it's designed to make us kind of pacify us into we're really being activists and we're really changing the world, right?
You're being drugged like in a
Yeah,
hospital, believe me.
yeah, right. So I'm trying to push what Chris and I did in Texas, which is a real radical operation called the state PAC. And a 501c4 can change amazing minds. We had a Mid-Cities Democrat State PAC in Tarrant County, Texas, and we virtually changed the county. And Chris knows she was right there with me. I was the president of Mid-Cities Democrats, and we took it over from a Hillary Clinton state PAC and turned it into a Bernie Sanders state PAC. So that was a big shock for everybody. But we persevered and we got more popular and we started attracting more candidates and we actually changed the landscape of the county. And I'm trying to work. I'm working with Morgan Coghill up in Lake County and the Grays Lake area with the great work they're doing against the data centers up there and trying to tell them that you need to have a foundational uh, uh, platform like a state PAC, in which they have the Northern Illinois Progressives, and they're making more moves towards that end. Um, and the Illinois Progressives, who are very supportive of the lightning strike, and they should be quite a few of them, including Maggie Wonderly, Lynn Casey Maher, are going to be on the show soon. But they're very supportive of what we're trying to do and encourage people to really get involved in the meat and potatoes, the basic foundational movements that far surpass any kind of success that you think you're getting on social media.
Well, thank you, Mike, for that perspective. Folks, speaking about independent media, we are having our first fundraising dinner for the lightning strike on July 29th, which is the coming Wednesday at the Bolingbrook Community Center. Please call me or call Ray. You can call me at 630-345-0202 or text me or call any one of us or send an email for the tickets to DLS for the lightning strike 8:20 a.m. at gmail.com. It's going to be Wednesday evening at 6:30. We're expecting about 100 plus people to come and not just support the show, but talk about issues. Talk about issues in a very bipartisan way. We're going to have Republicans there. We're going to have Democrats there. We're going to have independents there. It is our country, folks. Let's take it back. And speaking of taking things back, there's going to be a Halal Fest coming up in Kane County, and I want you to quickly listen to a message from the organizers. I'm going to play an audio on this while you look at my face.
Looking for the ultimate family weekend this summer? Join us at Chicagoland Halal Fest 2026, August 8th and 9th at the Kane County Fairgrounds in St. Charles. Enjoy incredible halal food from nearly 40 vendors, live entertainment, shopping, a kid zone, camel and pony rides, networking, family activities, and much more. With over 25,000 attendees expected, this is one of the Midwest's premier multicultural festivals, welcoming people of all backgrounds. Get your tickets today at thehalalgroup.com. That's TheHalalGrp.com. The Lightning Strike is proud to be a sponsor of Chicagoland Halal Fest 2026. We'll see you there.
Okay, that was a quick message from the Chicagoland Halal Fest, and the Lightning Strike is sponsoring that group. If you would like to promote anything that you are doing in the Chicagoland area, feel free to send us an email, okay? And we'll be happy to get your message to our listeners. So again, the number to call in to join the conversation is 773-763-9278. Michigan in play. But I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about this continuing war in the Middle East, which Congress has not authorized, but Congress is still funding. I want to bring in Ray back into the conversation. Ray, what do you think is happening? Why are we spending billions and billions of dollars on an unauthorized war with no end to it?
Well, this isn't bigger than the war. The real purpose is to control the audience. And one way to control the audience is what we see on social media all the time. When you and I have a debate on issues, if you get mad at me, you attack the person, you attack me instead of addressing the issue. And what the government is doing, what the Trump administration is doing the exact same thing on a national and international level. They're getting people to hate each other. They started this war. I don't think there was no chance that Iran was going to build a nuclear weapon. But if you start a war and you get enough people to hate the Iranians, they'll start an internal battle that empowers Trump. It's about the money and control of the military. This war will not change anything, but what he hopes it will change will be the minds and the attitudes of the American people. And that's what this war is about. He's trying to build himself up. He's trying to strengthen his position, and he's trying to demean and demonize those that criticize him.
You know, Ray, something very interesting is happening internationally. And I want to come back to what you just said and tie those two ends together.
Sure.
Back in India, there has been major protests going out against the Modi government, okay? And let me...
He's a mini Trump, by the way, but go ahead.
He is a mini Trump. Now, let me tell you what happened over there. Like Trump is trying to do over here by dividing Americans to fight against each other. In India, the Modi government has been trying for the last 11, 12 years since Modi has been in power to make the Hindus and the Muslims fight against each other so that the BJP or the Bharatiya Janata Party, Modi's party, can remain in power. Now, here's something funny happened. I don't know if you guys have heard of this or not, but most Americans actually don't pay attention to international things, right? Except for the wars. A guy in Michigan over here started an online party called the Cockroach Janata Party. That is the actual name of the organization. Okay. The Cockroach Janata Party. Janata means people, okay, in Hindi. Within in a couple of months, that online party had more members signed up than India's ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. Okay, millions of people became members. Now, where did all this agitation started happening now? India's education minister, a guy called Dharmendra Pradhan, who was a very close friend of Modi, leaked the question papers for a national examination called NEET over there, N-E-E-T. Okay, it's the national entrance examination for all the medical colleges and engineering colleges and all of that. People literally pay thousands and thousands of dollars to go and take those exams and prepare for those exams to get admitted into these prestigious colleges over there. So the education minister basically leaked the question paper after taking a bribe. So the students now, the Gen Zs, started a big movement for the last almost 3-4 weeks now There has been major agitations going on in India. And finally, yesterday, the education minister was forced to resign from the government. Meanwhile, what happened now? The students, Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, everybody, they came together and they have been feeding each other, they have been taking care of each other, they have been supporting each other. So the entire game plan of the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, of having the Hindus fight against the Muslims in India has fallen apart now. And if Trump continues to do this stuff over here, eventually people are smart. They're going to, get up and take notice and say enough is enough. Our infrastructure is falling apart. There's no food on the table. There are no jobs coming up. And you want to continue to hold on to power, Mr. Trump, by making us hate each other? That's not going to work. And that is going to happen. Sooner or later, that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that is something that I would really look forward to happening. People are getting, social media, regardless of whether it has power or not, it does spread messages in those groups, right? And that is where people are going to sit up and say, hey, not anymore. I don't want this millions and billions, $1.5 trillion to continue to murder people overseas. What are we doing, folks? What are we becoming? Well, this is not the America that I signed up for, Ray.
The people aren't focusing on the amount of money that's being spent to kill people. The people are being focused on why we hate them. We've demonized them. We've ignored the history. I mean, the truth is, Iran was a democracy until the CIA in 1953 decided they didn't like the democratically elected prime minister, and they overthrew him and put him in jail. And then they installed the Shah, who had the backing of the CIA with money, and he took over the country, and he killed millions of Iranians while we watched. And that history was forgotten by us as Americans, but not by the Iranian people. Now, I don't like the oppression of the Iranian people. I don't think you go from one bad to another bad. You go from one bad to good. That hasn't happened in Iran, and they become easy targets of hate. But it's we're used to hating. Listen, Mohammed, people look at me and they go, "Oh, you're a Muslim?" I go, no, I'm a Christian Arab. They go, there's no such thing as a Christian Arab. You're either a Muslim if you're an Arab, or you're a Christian Republican.
I'm so glad you brought that point up, Ray. When people look at me, they say, oh, you are a Muslim Indian? There are no Muslims in India. There are more Muslims in India than the entire population of Pakistan.
Right.
Okay. The second largest Muslim population in the world is in India, folks.
Demonization is the most influential factor in today's media, and it's being pushed by some politicians, it's being pushed by some media, and it's being pushed by many activists who use it and say demonization can move us forward. And we really have to get away from that.
Okay, so how do we counter that, Ray? I mean, we started a segment over here that Chris and Mike are co-producing at this moment called, what is that, District Watch, folks?
District Watch.
Okay, and what we're trying to do is to bring in people who have walked the walk, knocked the doors in their individual districts to find out and talk about what are the issues at the grassroots level.
Right.
Not what the party bosses want us to focus on. Speaking of party bosses, I want to talk about something that is happening in the 97th district over here for the state of Illinois. That is the district that I live in. I don't know if you guys have followed this story. It has become more prominent. It was on WBBM yesterday. It was in the Chicago Tribune. It has been on major news outlets now. State rep for the 97th district was Harry Benton. Harry Benton was accused of sexual impropriety, okay, by people working in his office, and this was reported to Speaker Chris Welch over 6 months back. And Welch sat on it, did not take any action, till the heat became so strong that he was forced. Number one, he took Benton off of all committees and everything. Okay, that was step one. Then the state legislative governor or something, I mean, I'm forgetting the exact name of that organization, but they conducted an investigation and finally came up with their report, which the Tribune is going to be publishing shortly because they are going to make it public after like 4 or 5 months. And Harry Benton was forced to resign from the office. Now, the Democratic Party have to replace Harry Benton on the November ballot, and they have to put someone in place till the elections in his seat. 7 candidates applied for that position, and the last date to apply was 13th of July. They started having interviews on the 15th, and on the 20th, the local Democratic Party leadership announced who they are going to have step in place of Harry Benton. And guess what? They chose a woman who worked in Harry Benton's office as the communications director. I mean, what are the party bosses thinking? I had a talk with the local party officials over here, and I was told all kinds of things that, oh no, we were under this pressure and that pressure, so and so. They bypassed one of the most qualified candidates that they could have chosen and selected this person. Immediately, the Republicans are blasting out advertising saying, oh, she worked in his office. Why didn't she say something when she knew something? I think the Dems are going to lose the 97th district.
Well, that's an exact example of what the problem is with our media. This happened 3 years ago. There was no place for those women to go to that would pick up the story because he was a very powerful elected official who was tied to the speaker and his party. The media wasn't going to attack that relationship. The fact that it took 3 years for this to come out is really a sad, indictment of the failure of the news media to make it an issue 3 years ago. The same with the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Everybody knew about that knew about it, but people were afraid the media was too weak. So it's sad because there was no independent media to bring this out sooner, and it could have protected a lot of the victims who became victims over the 3 years that this took place.
Yeah, we don't know how many other people are there. Hopefully the report would come out on that. Speaking of that, I'm so glad you brought up the Epstein files, Ray. What the heck is happening, guys? Mike, when was the last time you heard about the Epstein files now?
Epstein files. I remember something. I heard something the other day about it.
Where?
Okay. Maybe on social media, but even that's going away on social media. They've moved on to some other flavor of the month.
Yeah.
There are too many media people that were friends with Jeffrey Epstein. It goes back to money. Money is the basis of evil in politics.
Yeah.
And the money is used to silence people. And people are afraid, even if I don't tell you don't talk about it, you don't want to lose the money, so you stay quiet on your own. You're conditioned to do what you believe needs to be done to continue to get the funding. So PAC money, all that stuff is
Uh-huh.
bad.
You know something, Ray, that the 24-hour news cycle and what drives what people are, listening to. There are some stories recently that have disappeared before they were resolved. Okay, I want to point out about the long-term recovery in Western North Carolina after flooding. Nobody's talking about it. The continuing humanitarian conditions in Gaza. Nobody's talking about that either.
Right.
Supply chain risk from the Red Sea shipping disruptions. We are not hearing about that. We only hear about it when the gas price goes up at the gas pump, right? But we don't talk about the rising insurance costs driven by repeated climate disasters, the long-term consequences of the Iran conflict for inflation and consumer prices. Nobody's talking about those things, and that is something that I want to talk about today in the next 15 minutes that we have. While we are focusing on the geopolitics, economists are continuing to warn us about the growing dependence on foreign capital to finance U.S. deficits also. Where do you think the money is coming from? We are not printing the money, right? I mean, this affects interest rates, mortgages, long-term economic stability, and the government's fiscal flexibility. We are borrowing the money from China and Saudi Arabia, of all places. What
Well,
say you guys?
if I can interject something
Please go ahead.
a little different, but
Uh-huh.
uh, all this distraction, 98% of the corporate media is just, they've got their own agenda. In the meantime, we whatever happened to the anti-BDS bill? I mean, that's just dropped off the map.
I'm so
I'm
glad you brought that up, Mike. Yeah, educate us on that. What was it,
well,
and
no,
why should we be paying attention?
well, it's basically a violation of our constitutional freedom of speech that was passed unanimously by every state legislator in Illinois years
40
ago.
states, 40
Yeah.
states have passed similar bills.
And Illinois was the first one. We were
Yes,
the
Illinois was the
leader
first.
in this, okay? The epicenter of Zionism, I call Illinois. It's ridiculous. And we don't know about that because
I don't like
nobody
to
wants to
use
talk about it.
I want to tell you I don't like to use labels like Zionism and stuff because they become hot button issues and right away your mind snaps with people who are listening. But it's bad players, bad characters that are behind that. And you're right, it's a special interest because they use their money to stop it. You
Well, you
know,
have
and
Abdel Nasser Rashid, who's got a bill, HB 2723. When's the last time you heard that mentioned?
I get it.
When?
It's true.
Anywhere, really. I mean, it's stalled in committee. We had one of our guys uh, doing some research into this, and it's just died in committee somewhere. I don't know where it is. I can't get any information on it, really, anything worthwhile. But this is something that is a hot button issue with restricting, your constitutional freedoms of dissent. I mean,
I
Israel.
remember when I was younger, I used to uh, support the boycott of South Africa, and because of the way they treated African Americans there, it was unbelievable. And
Yes.
to boycott a foreign country that oppresses, and it's not even the country, the BDS is a boycott of practices that are
Right.
taking place in the occupation. They want that stopped. But part of the problem is the media doesn't want to talk about it. There's bias. And Abdul Nasser Rashid is a great guy. I know him. I talked to him. He's a smart guy. He doesn't understand the media. He got elected in almost by accident, a good person. But our community, especially the Arabs and Muslims, we do not understand how to convey an impactful message. Because if this were about Africans fighting discrimination and apartheid in South Africa, you saw what happened. They knew how to protest, they knew how to get their voices out, and they were able to bring that out. The Arab community, we've been on this now for several years, and we can't elevate the voice to a
Well, Ray,
level where to
let
force the
me.
media to address it.
I have to disagree with you on something.
Go ahead.
I don't care about buzzwords, and I don't care about calling a spade. All right. And if you are an APAC Zionist organization that is, infringing on our state rights, you got to call it out. And when you have all these people that are kind of like hiding in plain sight, nothing happens.
Well,
All right.
it's not about just the use of the buzzword. It's it's the understanding that comes from a word. So instead of and I'm not criticizing you, I'm using this as an example because this happens across the board in every politics. I can use a word and it automatically has an understanding that's usually distorted by both sides. What you got to do is if you see a block, a word that becomes one of those blocks, you have to find another way to address it because even members of the Jewish community, it's ironic that some of the biggest voices against Israel's government are right here in the Jewish American community.
Oh,
And
absolutely. No
yeah,
doubt.
and
No
they
doubt.
get kind of nervous when they hear certain words because they start thinking of how that word. And again, I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying
Oh,
that
I
the
get your
language,
point. I
yeah, the
understand where you're
language we
going.
use, we have to find ways to navigate around the buzzwords that have been created and distorted.
You know,
Well, how do
speaking
you
of
how do you how do you navigate around APAC?
yeah,
Is that a buzzword?
speaking of that, that was going to be my question. APAC for Mike is not a registered lobbyist group. We know that it is not a group that has a headquarters that you could go to and protest at. It is individuals now, and they are trying every trick in the book for the last 50, 60 more or more years into impacting the the American psyche. Let me put it this way: look at what happened in the ninth district, okay, in Illinois, in the primaries over here, and in the seventh district. What happened? I mean, APAC just threw in millions of dollars into impacting people. And what I started off by saying, folks, is that advertising works. Otherwise, corporations wouldn't be spending billions of dollars in advertising.
The answer to APAC is if they want to have their organization, they can have it. But what they can't have is the ability to put $10 million in one specific election versus a candidate that only has 100,000. That's what AIPAC does. They use money like a sledgehammer to beat up candidates. Now, in this past election, we've seen a negative response to AIPAC, and a lot of candidates backed by AIPAC have lost. And I think that trend will grow, but we need to limit the amount of money that these outside forces are pouring into elections. I got to tell you that if you even Pritzker, he's a billionaire. I don't think he should be allowed to spend more than the average. There should be a set amount of money in every election, and that needs to be the cap. Whether you're a billionaire or whether you're a person in Cabrini Green running for office, and you should both have the same ability in terms of money to address the same issues and focus the people on issues rather than on the money.
So Ray, how do we make this happen? Okay, when the Supreme Court comes in and says there can be no limit on political contributions, how do we, ordinary Americans like you and I and Mike and Chris and all our listeners out there, how do we make this happen? Because it has become so toxic now. It's all about the money. The first thing that people do is they form, as soon as they file their D10 or whatever, even for state elections, they form a committee to start raising funds. Okay, so you got to
Not
have
all of them. Not all of them. There's dark money out there that they
Oh yeah.
don't even have to disclose who's giving them the money that they pay to promote candidates without the candidate even having any influence over that
So I
money.
want to talk to in the second hour. I want to talk to Marie and Maria, who is a legislative attorney. She uh, probably has a better handle on how we can make this happen. Is that by, legislation? Is that by a constitutional amendment? I don't know. I'm not a constitutional scholar.
Well,
Okay.
Better, I'm sorry,
well,
Chris,
Yeah.
I
Chris
apologize.
wants to say something. Go ahead, Chris.
Better communications, more discussion like this. I apologize, Chris, for interrupting. Go
no,
ahead.
no problem. I would say my concern with doing it legislatively, which would in a normal time
Okay.
would be totally doable, but with the rabid regressives on the Supreme Court, they would just say you don't have the legislative right to limit free speech because they said basically with Citizens United, money is free speech or money is speech. Well, that's just crazy. Money is money. Money buys stuff. Money is not speech. Money buys the ability to spread your speech and to spread your point of view. But money itself is not speech.
But
And that
remember,
is a distinction.
keep in
Sorry.
mind, there was a time when the Democrats controlled the Supreme Court, and this happened under them also.
Yes.
Money is an inherent cancer in the American political system.
Yes.
And you're absolutely right. Each side's going to use whatever power that they can to stop the limitation of money because that's how these politicians survive. It's all about money. Meanwhile, a show like this, we have to beg to get people to come out and augment a voice. And the best thing for Americans is not just to hear our voice, but to hear the other voice together. And they're smart enough. I don't tell people what to believe. I say, listen to this debate, listen to that debate. You're smart enough. You make up your own mind on what you believe. 90% of the time, good always surpasses evil.
Yeah.
Eventually, it will. Okay. I mean, look
Just
look
takes
back
too
at what
long.
the Supreme Court had said in the past that corporations are people. I mean, come on, guys. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
it's like saying, the grass is people. Okay. The grass in my yard is
Well,
people.
wasn't there recently, like within the last few months or maybe the last year, some city or something or is getting ready to or has already passed a little bill or law for that area that if you're a corporation, you get a vote on elections. Every corporation that meets or company that meets this criteria, which I cannot remember because I just ran across it like a couple of weeks ago and didn't have time to look into it. But so now some states, some cities, whatever it was, are giving corporations the right to vote on matters that affect them.
Huh. I'll
I
have to
was like gobsmacked. It's like, really?
I'll
Oh my
have to look.
gosh.
I'll have to look into that. Okay. So, folks,
Yeah.
it's 8:58. We are coming to the end of our first hour, and thank you so much to Ray for joining us, and Mike and Chris, and we will continue the conversation over here. But please mark down Wednesday, July 29th on your calendar in the evening, 6:30 to 9:30. We've got some very good people coming to talk about issues, and you get to meet Chris in person. So, hey,
yes, very exciting.
you know, and we got a big backdrop with our logo on it that you can take pictures at. Okay,
Woohoo!
and we are trying to arrange a nice, mild, grilled dinner for you guys. Okay, and so if you are a vegetarian, yeah, we'll have some vegetarian food also. But again, it's not about the food or getting to know, talk to each other. It's more about meeting each other in person and then having a conversation. We need to
Right.
get away from this social media conversations where people can hide behind aliases. They're not showing their face, and there's no communication. In communication, you need to have two people sitting down talking to each other. That is what communication is. Okay, it's 9 o'clock now. We'll be taking a station break, but we'll continue the conversation on our Facebook page over here. So stay tuned while we continue the conversation. And if you want to join the conversation, the number to call in is 773-763-9278. That segment always is sponsored by Ray, and it's called What's on Your Mind. Okay. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you, and you can text us after the show. If you want to leave a message for us, you can leave a voicemail, and we'll be happy to play your messages. The number for that is 312-TLS for the lightning strike, 8281. It is a Google number, and you can always leave a message for us over there. The whole point that we are trying to get across is this: it takes two to tango. It takes two to have a conversation. If you just keep on listening to messages which are paid, you're not going to have a great conversation or understanding what life is all about. I want to come back to one more thing today, is about our FDA, the Federal Drug Administration. They keep on approving these drugs, and then a few years later, they say, oh no, that has cross-contamination. The latest thing that they pulled out are a bunch of blood pressure medications that CVS Pharmacy was distributing, and one of the pharmacists, when he was putting those pills, going through them, he noticed some red dots on those pills. FDA didn't catch it. The manufacturer didn't catch it. And it turned out that those red dots were some other medication that was mixed into the blood pressure medication by the manufacturer. And most of these generic medications especially are coming in from India. It's a huge billion-dollar market of getting generic medication over here. Our system does not care. There's been so much vertical integration. The insurance companies own the pharmacies, they own the pharmacy benefit managers, they own the medical practice. So when you have a problem, the doctor is going to first make sure that he can prescribe things for you. And I have had this as a Substack also, because when you go to the doctor, the first thing that they ask is, do you need a refill? They're not asking you, how's your health? What have you been eating? Are you exercising? Are you following some program to get better? It's all about pushing those pills. And then the FDA says, oh, we're going to pull those off the market, and there's going to be a fine for $5 million on XYZ pharmaceutical company. Meanwhile, that company has made $5 billion pushing that medication. I don't know. That is the country that we are living in, folks. But heck, it is our country, and we have got to take it back.
Hey, can I interject for just one
Please
second?
Go ahead, Mike.
I got something for Ray. All right. It's
I saw you researching over there, sir.
I'm digging on something. All right. What we need to do is promote End Citizens United. All right. It's a group that I belong to, that I've been following for a while, and other people need to follow it as well. It's endcitizensunited.org. endcitizensunited.org. All right. So there are some groups out there. They don't get the attention they need, but lightning strike will strike with this one at least. We need to stop the money. I have a good friend of mine, John Stanton, loves this show, and he says we don't talk enough about stopping the money. And Ray was talking about it. I'm talking about it. We're all talking about it now. So endcitizensunited.org.
And tell them Tell them the power of a good press release that explains the subject, devoid of the political blather. If they can explain what the purpose is, and they send that release to the media, to all the media, online, print, radio, TV, and they do it repeatedly, the media will take notice. It does work. And I'm telling you that it does work. And not
Yep.
enough people do that. They just don't do the basics.
And that's
Right.
that's one of the most important things that we learn in communication, that you got to get the message out and repeat it. It takes
Yeah.
at least 5 repetitions before someone actually gets the message. Speaking
At
of that,
least.
I want to make the second repetition now that we are back on the air about the Halal Fest that is coming up on August 8th and 9th. And if you want to please take a quick listen to it, it's going to be at the Kane County
Looking for the
Fairgrounds.
ultimate family weekend this summer? Join us at Chicagoland Halal Fest 2026, August 8th and 9th at the Kane County Fairgrounds in St. Charles. Enjoy incredible halal food from nearly 40 vendors, live entertainment, shopping, a kid zone, camel and pony rides, networking, family activities, and much more. With over 25,000 attendees expected, this is one of the Midwest's premier multicultural festivals, welcoming people of all backgrounds. Get your tickets today at thehalalgroup.com. That's TheHalalGrp.com. The Lightning Strike is proud to be a sponsor of Chicagoland Halal Fest 2026. We'll see you there.
I like it. I like it.
Yep, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be there, and there's going to be a dunk tank over there. Mike has just now agreed.
Absolutely. I've been on those before.
Okay.
I'm a
I'm
good
gonna miss
target.
out.
Okay,
Oh,
no, Chris. We'll
I'll be
videotape
there in
everything.
spirit.
We'll videotape everything and share it with you. But there
Yay.
is going to be a lot of fun over there, folks. We are going to show up, and and also our good friend Hassan Nijam's son is getting married on the 9th, isn't it, Ray?
I believe so. Yes.
Yep. So,
Congratulations, Hassan and family.
yep, congratulations to Hassan Nijam and his family. And this is going to be one of those days, folks, that we are going to have a little bit of relaxation, okay? We hustle 7 days a week on this show. Please understand that it's a 2 hour show. It takes about 15 hours to prepare for this and go through and post it on our socials and everything. And for that, Brendan Bond is working with us, doing a fabulous job on getting us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and other things.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. It's about 9:08. Congresswoman Marie Newman should be joining us shortly, and she has an interview that she did with Abdul El Sayed. So listen to that, and if you have any questions, feel free to follow up with Abdul's campaign. August 2nd, this coming Saturday, next week Saturday, August 2nd and 3rd, the Impact Group will be out knocking on doors in Michigan to bring out the vote for Abdul El Sayed, and we'll be having a live report from them as to what they are doing over there. They have invited us to actually come and do a live show from Michigan, Ray, on August 3rd. I don't think that we would be able to go over there, but we are trying to work up something to where we can have them come and join us live on our show over here.
I do a radio show on WNZK AM 690 radio in Dearborn, Detroit. The Mohamed Faheem there is Layla El Husseini.
Okay.
There are only 3 radio programs that even talk about these issues in the whole country.
Oh,
But
wow.
I'll try to hook you up because maybe you can do a network program with her and address those issues. And Partnering and is a means of strength. I wrote a whole book called Power PR for ethnic activists, and the coming together is your first step in augmenting your voice. You got to set aside these little minor rivalries and come together and look at the bigger picture, not whether you agree with Mohamed Faheem all the time, but recognize that Mohamed Faheem's radio show and with Mike Patino and Chris Hilbert, it's important to have that voice there. And Reagan said that if you agree with somebody 80% of the time, the 20% are not evil. You don't have to agree with that 20%. 80%.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, Congresswoman Marie Newman has joined us. Good morning, Marie.
Good
Hi,
morning,
Marie.
everyone. How is everyone?
Let me bring you in to the conversation. There she is.
How's it going, everyone? Happy Sunday morning. Gorgeous out.
We've been discussing all kinds of things, including the Epstein files and Harry Benton and the continuing war in Iran and the billions of dollars that our Congress just signed up on, $1.5 trillion, Marie, to kill people overseas.
When they don't, honestly, and that it's funny, my sister and my brother-in-law visiting last night, we had an extended discussion about the DoD budget, right? And that how fungible it is, and they use it in a bunch of different ways. And, they're asking for an astronomical overall yearly budget, but then they're asking for another, whatever it is, a couple $100 billion for this war, right? So the reality is they don't need both for sure. But even in that DoD budget, it's ridiculous. It is beyond pale.
Yep.
So we are where we are. But
what I want to do, Marie, is go ahead and play the interview that you had with Abdul El Sayed, and that way we can continue the conversation.
Yeah, we'll all, on the other side, we'll all chat about it. I'll just do a quick setup while you're getting it queued up, my friend. So folks, had the great fortune of chatting with Dr. Abdul El Sayed. He is the Senate candidate for U.S. Senate in Michigan. He's running against Congresswoman Haley Stevens, and it's a pretty hot race, folks. I'm sure you're seeing a lot about it. He's been on the news a lot. And, El Sayed is largely seen as kind of the I understand the problems and I have real solutions that actually will work candidate. And then Haley Stevens is bought and sold AIPAC candidate. And we've seen this song before. We just saw it in the Chicago area, right? So at the end of the day, we're very familiar how this could work out. But interestingly, AIPAC continues their downward trend. I think it's well known that 80% of the country thinks that AIPAC is toxic. They come into a race, and they literally character assassinate. Well, it's not working anymore. It looks like of all the races, all the primaries we've had, about 75% of the time they're losing. AIPAC is losing. And I'll go ahead and say the good guys are winning.
Okay. Well,
I'll say it for everyone, right?
Let me bring in the interview, Marie, and then we can talk about the other
good.
side.
Okay, go ahead and cue it up, folks, and we'll chat later.
Okay, let's get this thing queued up and ready to go. Oops, hang on one sec.
Put out your financial disclosures, right?
Okay, let me start from the beginning.
I'm excited to talk about that.
What
But
did we get
first,
for?
Dr. El Sayed, I have a quick question because let's just get it out of the way. It's a fast one. Folks had asked you to put out your financial disclosures, right? And there's reporting that you indeed did that. I saw them. Looks good. But your opponent seems to think that you didn't put it out there. So let's just put that right out there.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're taking $60 million in outside spending, setting a record in terms of the amount of money spent against your primary opponent, you want anything you can to distract. And, so this was the thing that she wanted to use to distract. At the end of the day, my wife, her family inherited land in India where they immigrated from, and put it in their kids' names, and then sold it this year, which terrible timing, but they sold it this year. And so getting financial information from India is not the easiest thing to do, and so it slowed down the process. We didn't break any of the rules. We took the same extension on our paperwork that the Congresswoman has taken.
Mm-hmm.
every year that she's been in Congress. So it's a little rich now to start to try and point fingers to do for somebody who did the same thing you've done. But the big question really when it comes to money and transparency is who's funding these campaigns. So we know about half of the 60 million is coming from UDP direct. UDP is AIPAC's Shell PAC, or AIPAC's, it's Shell.
United Democracy Project. So that people see.
Yep, United Democracy Project, $30 million in outside spending there. And then there's these other really shady organizations. One is the Center for Democratic Priorities, which didn't exist before it started to run ads for my opponent. The other one is this group called Center Forward, which apparently paid for a trip for the Congresswoman and her mother to go to Portugal to talk to whom, I'm not sure, to talk about what, I don't know. But in the end, they're a huge spender in this race. And then they disclose their funds, and all their funds were brought forward from 501c4 organizations, which can hide their donors. So it's like this sort of Russian nesting doll situation of outside spending, all to obscure the fact that this is a candidate who has taken money from all of the worst corporations and has spent the last 8 years in Congress doing their bidding instead of ours. And so, I think if we want to talk about money and transparency, there's plenty to talk about that has to do with why $60 million can come into our elections to set a record in the amount of money that is spent against one candidate. And that tells you about where I stand. I don't take corporate money. I never have, never will. And that's why the corporations in AIPAC want to destroy me.
Well, and thank you for putting that trust. And just to be clear with folks, I understand your tax documents have been disclosed as well publicly.
My tax documents are out there, right? And so look at it is a frustrating factotum of our politics that there's a lot when you have a lot of money coming in that you can use to distract people from the foundational issues at play, and that's sort of where we are. But you've done this. You know what it's like to go up against AIPAC. You know how they play. You know how they distract, and here we are.
Yeah, AIPAC is impressive at times, but in terms of their results, right? But their results are not good this round, so let's watch that closely.
Well, I got to say, because of folks like you who've been telling that story for a very long time. I mean, I think they've been able to go under the radar, and I think in this moment, people are asking, why is our country funding a genocidal foreign government billions of dollars when we've watched live and living color the carnage they've created? Well, that money should be spent here on us to do things like build our schools and provide health care.
Glitch.
Here. Why is that happening? And I think the reality of it is that because AIPAC can spend so much money just fucking people in races who are willing to stand up to them, we end up having a bipartisan consensus on the single issue least important to voters, most important to them, which is we send our money to a foreign government. We allow a foreign government to dictate our foreign policy to us. We can do a lot better, but you've done that work. And, they came for you and you stood up to them. And, anything we're doing in this race is a function of people who've come before us to do that. So I just want to give you your flowers and thank you for your courage.
And tonight we have a great one as folks kind of trickle in and
Marie,
come to visit for a while.
Well, we can talk about it because I can fill everybody in on the rest of it. So if you want to go ahead and move us back to chatting mode.
Let me come back. Go ahead, Marie.
Okay, good. So terrific discussion overall. As you can see, we talked about money and politics extensively, and then we did talk about Medicare for All. And I asked him a key question about Medicare for All, and I'd love to hear the panel's thoughts on it as well, is that, here we are again fighting AIPAC to the tune of, so think about this, it's 50 million coming in from corporate PACs and AIPAC, primarily AIPAC for Congresswoman Haley Stevens and against Dr. El Sayed. And that's up against, and I think he's maybe raised 10 million. This is a perfect portrait of why our money and politics system doesn't work. But the next topic we talked about was Medicare for All, and then I'll hand it back to the panel. And it's interesting because Dr. El Sayed, he came to me, oh gosh, whenever it was, months ago, and we talked about phasing in Medicare for all, bringing seniors in first and vulnerable people in, and then people under 26 into the Medicare for all system first, and then graduating. The other way you can do it is with states, right? You can do it state by state. The reason he's particularly qualified to implement and execute Medicare for all is that he is a public health official. And so he had a very he wants to do it full load, but he wants to do it in a phased way. And I think that makes a world of difference about the reality of it happening. So I'll put myself on hold and the panel can react and ask questions.
Okay. Thank you, Marie. Medicare for all is something that most progressives have been pushing for a long time now, right? Mm-hmm. But before we go to the Medicare for all, we were discussing in the first hour about something that I said I'm not qualified to talk about. Maybe you and Maria can better explain it to us. Okay. Anybody remember the conversation, guys?
Money.
Okay. Money in politics. Money in politics.
Limiting money.
How do we limit that? I mean, if the Supreme Court says there are no limits, and then the billionaires are buying the elections, mm-hmm. What do I have to offer as an individual if my vote does not really count because someone influenced someone by spending $60 billion in a Senate race to vote for a particular candidate without really understanding the issues? How do we get money out of politics, Marie? I mean, is there a constitutional amendment that
it's a monster, but there are very good solutions. We just have to do them, right? And so, in fact, I did a whole Substack on this. We do not, with a big, with NOT in lots of underlines under it and in bold, we do not have to wait for Citizens United to be overturned. There is legislation out there that has been brought to the floor that would stop super PACs, that would create transparency, lower the amount each individual billionaire can give down to, $500, and can put guardrails from it. It would solve about 80% of the Citizens United problem right now. So that legislation was called the Anti-Corruption Act, and people like Ro Khanna and Pramila Jayapal and AOC and several others have introduced now, I think, 2 or 3 times. There are a couple of Republicans that actually support this. So the problem is they know it might pass right now. That's why they won't bring it to the floor. But we do have it ready. So once we do get the gavel back, we can bring the Anti-Corruption Act to the floor. And that's the shorter term, big blunt object that would solve a good chunk of the problem. Now, longer term, we have to expand the court, right? We absolutely have to expand the court to 13 or 15. And that's a very doable thing because, again, that legislation originally put forth in 2021 by Mondaire Jones has been brought back by Jamie Raskin in the current Congress and will be brought back again. So there's a lot of ways we can solve this problem, but it does take will. And I'll tell you, it's not just the Republicans that are a problem. It is the conservative establishment and corporate Democrats. And there's a whole coalition or a caucus in Congress. It's called the New Democrats. None of them want to do this because you know what? They have to fundraise small dollar fundraising, and they don't like doing that. So that's the answer. It can be done. Absolutely.
Okay, guys, your input on this, I would love to. So it can be done. My question is, Marie, when the Democrats were in power, why wasn't it done then? I mean, you talk about these corporate Democrats.
Yeah, there's 100 of them. So we have 216 or so total Democrats. Next time we'll probably have closer to 230. But 100 of them act as a block on this, and that's a problem. And that's why I can't stress enough, folks, every single problem we have, and I'm not exaggerating, and I'll give you 3 very clear examples. Every single problem we have in this nation that has not been solved is the result of money and politics. So we do have to get rid of it. So the reason we don't have a universal health care is because of money and politics, because politicians get paid off by Blue Cross Blue Shield and APAC and all these other places, right? The reason we do not have an equitable economy, a fair economy, is because we can't raise the minimum wage because corporate Democrats don't want it. We can't, with regard to the economy, there's a bunch of other things that, there's no price gouging industry-wide across all industries. There's price gouging laws in a couple of industries, but not very many. And we need it in pharmaceutical industry and healthcare. So price gouging is a huge problem. So that's the economy. And then, the third leg of the stool is the climate. The reason we've had no significant climate regulation is because all of these corporate Democrats and all of the Republicans are beholden to big oil. So those are kind of our three biggest problems in the world right now, and they won't get solved until. So, folks, don't vote for corporate Democrats. I'm just here. You're cutting your nose off to spite your face.
So, Maria, how do we know who is a corporate Democrat? A common voter on the street who does not even know who their state legislator is, or their local rep is. How do we get these people to know who these people are? I'll be happy to start taking names over here on the lightning strike.
We can. I'm going to put you on hold. Chris was trying to get in there, and I think she has an interesting question. Chris, will you go ahead and share your question?
Well, I was just going to say that it really seems to me that when you say corporate Democrat, and if you look at how they vote, and not just what they say, but some of what they say, they really come across more as Reagan Republicans with a D after their name. So they're basically in the wrong party. So please move back over to the Reagan Republican Party that you came from. If you're not going to vote for the people and you're going to put profits and corporation interest over the people, please leave the Democratic Party.
Or do we need a third party? Or do we need,
I was getting ready to say,
do we need to shame them? I mean, for me, I'm a former anti-bullying expert. These folks need to be shamed. I'm not a big shamer, but I will shame a corporate Democrat all day long.
I mean, that's why exactly I said, let's start taking names, okay? Naming names and calling these people out. Ray wanted to say something. Ray, go ahead.
I was going to say that part of the problem is getting the message out. There are too many forces against us. The media does not want to address this issue because these lobbyists and PACs and dark money are buying advertising in a media that's, it's anorexic, it's anemic, and they're dying. So what we need to do is have a bigger discussion about it. We need to make it a priority. And one thing I would suggest is strip it of the politics, the party labels. And I'm not saying you're wrong. Yeah. I'm saying that people automatically respond to stereotype rhetoric.
The bucket,
Yes, they see something and right away they're turned off. We need to reach these people that are Democrats and Republicans. Money is bad for politics. It's horrible.
Surprisingly enough, I was listening to an interview with Elon Musk, who
Mr. Money,
who was saying just yesterday. I was listening to that. He says money is going to be irrelevant in the future.
Of course,
there's going to be money will have no value in the future. I mean, I need to follow up on that conversation.
Well, because he believes that cryptocurrency is going to take over and monetize the world, right? And so
but that is money again, right, in a different form.
But it's not collateralized.
He's talking about physical money. He's talking about physical money.
But he also it's a different concept of currency, right? Like it's just not collateralized. It's like a wager on a bet. Right. So the reality is that there's some part of that might be true. But to Ray's point, he's right. It doesn't matter if you're Democratic, Independent, or Republican. Everybody has to know who's taking this corporate money. And there should be 100 years ago, I learned of this concept and it was appalling because I thought it was so mean, but I realized that it was effective. Like at a club or a country club, or they would put a shame board up and say, you haven't paid your dues yet.
Marty, that's what I want to do in our fundraising dinner on the 29th.
Ray, I'm sorry, what did you say, Ray?
I was going to say they did that to AIPAC. They published lists of the money that was going from AIPAC to candidates. It had an impact in this last election.
Yeah, if I could get a list, Ray, if
and
I could get a
pharmaceuticals.
list of these corporate Democrats, I will print it on a big poster and keep it at the entrance for our fundraising dinner.
We'll
So
do it
all,
by name, don't not party label, because there are a
Well, we
lot of
can
good
do it.
Democrats like Marie Newman,
yeah,
and
no,
you
no,
don't want
I'm
to
just
throw in
we're
a good
talking about the
label.
corporate Dems over here.
All
Speaking of
right,
that,
I
it's
can
9:30, folks. You are tuned in to the Lightning Strike.
send that.
I'm your host, Mohamed Faheem. We got Mike Patino, Chris Hilbert, Congresswoman Marie Newman, and Ray Hanania joining us. And I've got Maria Muzaffar joining us to break the echo chamber. Maria is actually driving, Marie.
Oh my gosh, she's
Yeah.
amazing. She can do it on her hands, doing a backflip,
No,
So,
no. Good morning. Good morning. I'm safe. I'm safe while I'm driving. My camera's off, but good morning to everybody. I wanted to break the echo chamber on this one note that we were talking about, educating people about the fact what corporate Democrats, the danger of corporate Democrats doing business as usual. And I think what gets lost in the translation is how does that impact the policy that they vote for, or they say yes to, or the meetings that they take. I think for the average voter, they say, okay, well, that's how money works, that's how things move. I mean, we should allow people to have influence. If that is the only path, we have to create influence. But the reality is this, is that the individuals that take this corporate money are then looking at tax breaks, they're looking at subsidies, right? They're looking at provisions, how zoning can be used, and they're voting yes on them. And I think that's the biggest thing that people don't realize, is that corporate money is dictating how they are building your cities and your towns, and who they're giving access to as far as business. And so this is how small business gets wiped out. And as far as shaming people, I do agree with Ray, is that we have to get back to the idea of Democrat versus Republican versus independent. Sometimes these labels protect you, right? They protect you. And instead of protecting these individuals under a party name, we should be identifying them as individuals and then seeing how their vote actually translates into who they got money from. AIPAC is pretty easy now, because AIPAC has been publicized, right? So we have an understanding, and the average voter is understanding what AIPAC's role is and what their vested interest is, especially when we speak about Gaza and the support for Israel for military funding. What's not so clear is how these businesses come in and allow themselves to build bigger companies, use land, use infrastructure, and how many of these companies are hiring individuals from within that state. How many times are they saying that we're going to be able to provide benefit to individuals within these residents to have competitive markets that serve the communities that they serve? So I think that's critical of breaking the echo chamber. Mohammed, I feel like you're about to say something.
yep, Maria, quick question. How far are you from Chicago, and are you able to hear us on the radio?
Oh, I am in the middle. I'm on my way to St. Louis, but I'm not on the radio. I don't know. I'm on the Zoom, so I can't
Okay.
really be at this. But when I get off, maybe I can get on and find out.
She
No, so
doesn't
I'm
AM.
thinking, Marie, if you can share a list of those corporate Democrats,
Oh yeah, no, we have them.
I will
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
I can start having like a 5-minute segment or 10-minute segment every Sunday, naming them on the radio.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's start with Brad Schneider and Sean Caston. How about those two?
Oh, we have beaten that horse to death now, Mike. I want to also bring in some of the lesser known evil characters out there. But Maria, please continue. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I broke it.
and I think, look, I think that people need to understand it's not just about good and evil. It's actually good governance, okay? I mean, how are we allowing these individuals to make decisions about jobs and infrastructure and investment and subsidies and tax break on businesses? How are we allowing them to do this? And if we're allowing them to have the relationship with people that make the most money, that's the companies that get help that ultimately destroy small businesses. So that's important. Okay, one thing I wanted to talk about is something that surprised me, Marie. I'd love to hear your views. Do you know that there's an executive order called the Smithsonian Directive?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, to get away from the nitty gritty of the policy issues, we're talking about building narratives, and what role do governments, administrations have to create narratives for the country, right? Every administration should empower, inspire, love for the nation. Absolutely, right? Love for the nation, patriotism, all of that. But if that is tied into executive orders that are revisionist historians that are dictating how we're going to understand who this nation is, we're going to lose out on who we can become, because we are not confronting who we were. So according to the executive order for the Smithsonian, it basically states that there should be a warning sign outside that says anti-American bias and inaccurate historical exhibits. Yes, Marie, that is the executive order.
Yep.
That
And who determines that?
Yeah, who determines that? And this is what's very critical, and this is why we have to get back to the facts, right? The political rhetoric it allows people to say that it's biased for a certain reason, but let's get back to the facts. Yeah. I went to watch Young Washington, which was a story about, the youth of George Washington, his early years. And anyone can identify the zealousness, the inspiration, him standing against, the king and the royal army and stating what he wanted to create for the colonies and fight against that. Anybody could understand that human spirit. And I actually really enjoyed watching that side of the story, which was the purpose of it. And then the critiques of the film was, well, we really kind of created this environment where we're watching someone who has fought, who has been brave, and we can understand that story, but we have no understanding of his relationship with slavery. And this is an argument that goes back and forth, right? Should we talk about these issues with history? If we do not, and we talked about this last time, we do not identify our own red lines. Right? We talked about what our own red lines. Is genocide a red line? Is taking away voting rights a red line for us today, at this time? Right. Is it a red line for us as Americans? If we are not able to identify that slavery was a red line, that we just don't have to touch on about it and have executive orders that really address institutions that are supposed to be addressing historical fact and what people experience in that history. If we're taking that away, how are we supposed to identify any red line at all if we can't identify the red lines in the past? So I think that is a moment for us to really think about, is that if we make it easy on ourselves on identifying what we find acceptable in the past, we will find a lot acceptable in the present that we should not be. And then the children that are growing up after us are going to have a lesser threshold, right? For example, Lindsey Graham's record is being analyzed. He's being critiqued for the words that he said. But what did he say about Hiroshima? He said, carpet bombed. He posed a question in the interview. Were we wrong in Hiroshima? Resoundingly, yes. Resoundingly, yes.
Not a question.
Not a question. But to pose the question on a red line of humanity allows for us collectively to not understand what our red lines are. And I think that's what's very critical with views like this, right? So we can talk about Trump's tariffs. We can talk about the different things that we are seeing with corporate Democrats. We can talk about all those issues. But if we allow our administrations to revise history and revise our own red lines as humans, then the progress we've made from the Civil Rights Act to the Voting Rights Act to the women's suffrage movement, all of those progressive movements that we have made, progressive meaning moving forward towards humanity on a more equitable stage for people, we are actually identifying them as just moments of coincidence, good moments for some, but not really a progressive motion that propelled our country forward, right? And I think that's what's critical for us to understand. So what I want to break the echo chamber on and end with this is we have to consistently identify what are today's red lines and why are the red lines that we identified collectively as a country in the past, why were they red lines to us? They say hindsight is 20/20, but why were they red lines to us? And isn't it better if we could catch our red lines now? If we can stand firm on them now?
It would be.
Well, Maria, thank you so much. I think that's a great way of looking at this. Okay, when we go back and look at history, and then we have our president at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I don't know if you guys followed that speech
Yeah.
or not. He was talking about communism is the new thing that we have to. I mean, this guy comes up with communism. How many communist countries are there in the world right now?
None.
3? I
Okay,
don't know.
hardly any, right? None. And
If you
this
don't
guy is
include the
trying to
White
bring
House,
back
3.
that thing now. It is all about distraction. I think that the guy gets up in the morning and his his babysitter comes in and says, "This is what we want you to say today, Mr. President. Otherwise, your friend Netanyahu is going to dump that file that he has on you into the media." And the guy goes up running with stupid ideas every single time.
I'm not even
Ridiculous.
sure it's other people's ideas, Mohammed. I think he comes up with a great deal of this, and his handlers probably don't love everything that he says, and increasingly because it's clear that his mental health is diminishing quite a bit. And I don't say that in a mean way. It's like it's just a fact. I mean, all of us have been around mentally ill people, and it's clear, what his challenge is. Um, so, um, so I think that he does a great deal of this on his own to the point where they're constantly in cleanup mode. They're constantly cleaning up some of the things that he's saying,
Well,
and
they're
so,
cleaning up behind him also on a lot of other stuff too, Marie, not
wow.
just
Yeah,
the stuff
absolutely.
that
I
he's
don't, I
saying.
don't love that part of
Okay,
your,
okay,
right.
Hey,
got it.
could I get back to Maria's point? The
Yeah,
red
please.
line. The
Yeah.
red line. Look how long we've been following that ridiculous red line of communism. I mean, communism is the new boogeyman. It's been a boogeyman for how many years? 20, 30, 40
Oh,
years?
no,
More than
going back
that,
to the early
the
50s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
McCarthyism, remember that?
70
Yeah.
years. I
70s.
mean,
Yeah.
I
It,
forget how old I
it
am.
actually started right after World War II, like right around 47, 48. So yeah, it's
Right.
forever and it's
Look at
ridiculous.
that. And they keep repeating it over and over and over. It never seems to lose its impact with people. It's just ridiculous.
When socialism doesn't
Scaremongering.
work as a boogeyman, you haul out communism. That's how that works.
Well,
Yeah.
they're trying to conflate socialism with communism also now.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, then none of them have read a history book, so why would they know?
Okay. Okay, folks, this is 9:42 now, and this is the Lightning Strike. This is our last show for July. And starting in August, we will be again talking about what is happening in Michigan. It is so important, the Michigan Senate race. It's not just a Senate race in a state, folks. It is fundamentally going to reshape American politics. And that is something that we want you to pay attention to. Okay? If you've got friends, if you've got family in Michigan, call them up.
Yep.
Ask them to, listen to fundamental shows like ours and take a decision as to who they want to vote for them. Who do they want to represent their interests in the Senate? Do you want to have someone who is bought and paid for by other interests to go represent your interests? That's not going to happen.
Yep.
And we got a good candidate, Dr. Abdul El Sayed. He has got, nobody's perfect, okay? Nobody's perfect. But at least it's a choice between good and not so good. Make your decision. I was talking to somebody yesterday, Marie, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to get a phone bank. Can you help out with phone banking?" I'm like, phone banking is the worst thing that can happen in today's world because I don't pick up a phone call if I don't know the person and they're not in my phone book.
I can tell you one worse than that. One campaign tactic worse than that. Postcards. They do
Yes.
exactly zero.
That is
Whenever
terrible.
these, and I work with a lot of activist groups, right? And I'm like, God bless you. And they work crazy hard and they do brilliant work and very creative and resourceful. And when inevitably one of them hauls out, let's do postcards, let's have a postcard. I'm like, that does nothing. Stop it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Postcard parties.
The return on investment for the work that goes into these phone banks is less than 3%.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is ridiculous, folks. Make personal phone calls. That is what I advised these people
Right.
yesterday.
Relational.
I
Yeah.
said, you know what?
Yes,
Talk to your
interpersonal.
family, talk to your friends, and don't impose on them. Ask them to do their own research, but at least get out the vote.
Yeah.
Come out and vote.
Oh.
There's the fundamental flaw in our elections now, folks, in our democracy. We don't come out and vote. We have given up on things.
Well, it's interesting. We all have to do our part, right? Everybody's
Yep.
got a pull, and you can affect someone's opinion that you're close to. I know I've done it personally. Everybody on this panel has done it. You've taken an independent or a moderate Republican, say, "Hey, we need your vote," and they do. And it's most important this time because the numbers are so in our favor. It's a two front, right? Is that all of us, every single voter in this nation, making sure as many people get out to vote as possible. And it kind of doesn't matter what there's because his polling is so bad and the Republican Party's so far worse that getting everybody out to vote will simply go in our favor. So the numbers are very important. It's not just turnout. It's like, no, everybody, you got to register and get everybody out. It's not just turnout within your party. So there's that piece. But the second piece, and we'll be talking about this more, I did a Substack on it, is the AGs have been rock stars. So this Illinois and a coalition of about 18 other attorneys general in the U.S. have come together and they've put together these fabulous lawsuits and they keep winning. They're winning at like 80%. The most recent one is they're doing is a tactic that I think is really going to pay off is that they're doing tabletop exercises, much like you do military exercises to prepare not for the day before the elections, but the day after for shenanigans. Because honestly, I'm less worried about those days. I don't think that the visual of having ICE and the military at polls is going to work very well. So I think the Trump administration is smart enough to know that. The stealing of ballots and the seizure of ballots and the stopping of the electoral process and the stopping of the certification is the real piece. So the AGs are doing these tabletop exercises to be able to click. They have all the tools ready and they can click it on the second that Trump says something about it. So know that it's not just them. We can't rely on just the AGs. They're doing great work, but we all have to get bodies to the polls. It's just, it has to be like with Orban. Remember, Orban's result was so bad that even he was like, okay, I guess I have to concede,
And that's something that is happening in India now, Marie. And, before you joined, I was talking about that also. The Indian government is really, really under pressure now from the youth of the country.
Yeah.
To make it a change. And Ray and I were talking about this, and Mike and Chris joined in as to they want to create this boogeyman and create hate and division amongst us over here. That's exactly what the Indian government was doing. Modi's BJP or Bharatiya Janata Party was following the British game plan of pitting the Hindus against the Muslims, and that's what they've been doing for the last, so many years now.
Yeah.
Kid in Michigan over here starts an online party called the Cockroach Janata Party. I don't know if you have ever heard of that or not.
I have heard. I just this week I learned of it.
Okay.
And I don't know very much, so go ahead.
Okay, the Janata means public or people, okay? So People's Party, that's what the Bharatiya Janata Party is, the government now that is running. So this kid started this Cockroach Janata Party just as a prank.
Yeah.
And like within literally weeks, more people had signed up to become members than the entire Bharatiya Janata Party membership in India. Millions of people.
I love it.
Joined this, and they came up with an AI generated cockroach also standing over there.
Beautiful.
And literally the Indian government is shaking in their boots now.
Good.
There were major protests all over the country because the education minister took massive bribes and leaked the contents of the question papers for a national examination that would be the entrance examination for medical and engineering and professional courses. So about 19 youth have committed suicide because they had spent their entire family's savings into preparing for those exams, because there's like this coaching culture is very prevalent in India.
Yeah, yeah.
So these people, and when they found out that the question papers have been leaked, 19 people committed suicide, young people. And the
That's
Indian
that is
government,
devastating.
yeah,
That is
the
devastating.
Indian government tried its best to to tamp this down. The Indian police went on a wild spree of beating people up,
Mhm.
and especially something funny is happening over there, which is not so funny. Uh, it's extremely hot in India right now. So the police came up with, they started beating people up with sticks without asking questions, and people started enjoying the beating. They said, hey, go ahead, beat us. We're going to take it and love it. They tried to throw tear gas at the crowds, and they said, man, we love the taste of this tear gas.
Crazy.
And then the funniest thing happened, the police came up with water cannons. And when they started water cannons, people started taking off their shirts and dancing in the water, saying, it cools us down. Man, we love it in this extreme heat.
Well, that's what they
So,
did in the civil
Well,
rights movement. And so in the 60s, that's what all of the civil rights marchers would do is that they would say, yeah, bring it. Bring
yep.
it. Yeah.
And so just yesterday, the education minister finally was forced to resign. And the Indian prime minister is trying to tamp this thing down, but the movement has taken off like crazy. So we need
Organize. So that's the lesson right there is that
that's the lesson
organizing
right there.
work.
We
Yeah.
don't need a third party here. We need a cockroach party over here. Okay.
We did touch on this a couple times. I do think that
Yep.
we should be open to a third party and doesn't necessarily have to have a very specific labor. Maybe it's the Labor Party, whatever it is. But I do think that we're heading towards that. I think there's an inevitability to that based on the numbers. 45% of this nation now for 5 years running, every poll that's done, at least 45% of the nation classifies themselves as independent. And it's not because they're moderate. And just as a reminder, everybody loves my sermon about this, is right. Moderates and independents are not the same thing. In fact, moderates don't exist. What does exist is people have a specific set of issues they worry about, and they only worry about those issues. So stop calling them moderates because nobody wants to be a diluter, because that's what a moderate would be. It's like, I want all of my solutions to be diluted. Independents care about a few things and they work hard towards that. So we have to understand, we have to live with reality, and politicians have to live with reality. These moderate and centrist politicians, that they're the only ones. There's no one in the country that's centrist or moderate. They're independent and they have a wild mix of issues that they worry about. So centrist and moderate politicians, you are on a very short leash.
Yep. Yep. And more people are realizing this. Okay. And folks, it is up to us. And what we are doing over here with the lightning strike every Sunday morning, we have been doing it for 3 years now. We have not missed a single Sunday except when the radio station had a glitch. I think we had to replay one of the older shows. But in 3 years, we have not missed a single Sunday.
That's a testimony to everybody, but particularly you,
Yep.
Mohammed, because what folks don't know that are listening is that you're everything. You're the producer, you're the main host, you're the coordinator, you do it all. So,
No,
God,
my whole intent, Marie, when we started this, was I saw things happening.
mhm,
And what am I going to tell my kids and my grandkids if they come up to me and says, "Hey, Dad, you saw things happening.
yeah,
What did you do?"
right.
So
Exactly.
whatever that we are doing, I mean, you coming in every Sunday morning, Ray jumping in whenever we ask him to, Mike and Chris putting all of this time in.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a reason behind it. And the
right,
reason is it is our country. We have
right.
got to take it back. It does not belong to the lobbyists. It does not belong to those who feel so secure in their elective offices.
Mhm.
It was not supposed to be a full-time gig for the rest of their life when you got elected to represent the people.
Was never intended that way.
It
It
was
was
never
never.
intended that way. You come in, you do your job, and then you go back out and do your
You bring a
farming or
fresh
whatever
perspective
that.
and then you cycle back out and bring, younger
Yep.
people in, all the things, right?
So one of the things, again, we've got about 6 minutes to finish off the show, and this is a direct message to the leadership of the Democratic Party. Get your act together. If you don't get your act together, you are going to lose whatever credibility that you have built up so far.
Right.
Don't be so confident that people are going to be so mad because of the Iran war that you're going to win the midterms because Trump is so hated. No, tell me what your policies are. What are
Right.
your programs? Where do you stand? What do you want to do for the people?
And what will you do when you get the gavel? I'm doing a Substack on this. It's like, be ready this time. Last time you had a year to prepare for Project 2025,
Yeah.
and you did exactly zero. Shame on you. That's not a manager or a leader or a governor. That is someone that just lets things happen. So to tag on to your message to leadership, say, have a list. What are we going to reverse? We're going to reverse the Medicaid cuts and the Medicare cuts and all the cuts to USAID. And there's 75 of them, right? But what are you going to do proactively to make sure that we have a secure country? You're going to make Washington, D.C. A state and have them have full voting rights in Congress and in the electorate, right? You're going to make sure that you do things, and have that Anti-Corruption Act, expand the court. Like, there's things you can do right away would be very powerful. Make sure you do them, and there are no excuses, because if it's the landslide, and I think we will pick up about 30 seats, and I think the Senate is definitely in play, and we can take over the Senate. I don't care how hard it is. Get off your hindies and do it.
Speaking of the
Yeah,
Senate, do you
start-
really think Mitch McConnell is alive?
No.
No idea. No idea.
Why,
Honestly,
why doesn't Andy Bashir go into the hospital and say, hey, I want to meet my state senator. I'm the governor of this place, for God's sake. What is stopping Andy Bashir from doing
it
that?
is all very curious, because I've got to
do.
believe there are governors that would do that, and I'm going to give Governor Bashir the benefit of the doubt. I have no idea if there's a legal matter there or there's another matter going on. I don't know. He's at the very least highly incapacitated. So I think the issue has to be forced, and I don't have an answer as to why Governor Bashir is not.
Okay. What is
doing-
stopping, and Ray, to come back to your point, what is stopping this so-called media, the so-called journalists, investigative journalists, to go into the hospital and say, hey, we want to have an interview with the senator from our state?
I think the media has tried several times, and even legacy media, and we beat them up a little bit, but I think they have tried, and they have not been able to get in because there's nothing to stop the hospital from stopping them. There's just not.
30 years ago, that would have been a major story that the
Right,
media would have
right.
covered.
Ray's so
They
right.
would have wanted to pin that down.
Yeah.
Yep. Mike wanted to say something. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was going back to what Marie said about third parties. As I had a fun fact for her. Now I lost it, but there's like 54 parties, 34 of them which had presidential candidates, and so it's a big mess out there. They need to be organized. The Green Party. There's a couple good candidates in the Green Party that I've supported in the past. Anna Scheifel-Bean and Alexandria up in these two people are very, very competent, viable candidates. So, Green Party is got potential. If we could talk about a third party that's got access to 40 something states. I mean, you can't start from scratch. You can't keep saying we need a third party and not look hard at what we have currently.
Mike, what I want them to do, though, I mean, Anna comes up right in front of the election. What have you been doing for the 2 years before the election? What are you doing with the community? What are you doing to get the message out consistently? That is what I think is going to make any party, the Green Party or the Blue Party or the Cockroach Party, successful in the near future. 9:59, folks, we are about to wind up. I just want to send again a reminder to you guys, do watch us, do come and meet with us. Chris is actually flying down all the way from Texas, flying up from Texas to come and join us.
I'm so excited. I just can't wait.
Yeah, Wednesday, July 29th, this coming Wednesday at the Bolingbrook Community Center. Don't show up there without telling us, because then we will not be able to feed you. There's going to be dinner. There's going to be some very interesting tabletop conversations, like Marie was saying, that the Attorney Generals are doing with the elected representatives that are coming over there. You're going to have about 3 or 4 mayors, and we're going to have some great, fabulous conversations and some good food. And then you get to take a picture with Chris, okay?
Beautiful.
Okay, and excuse me. 9:59, we'll be winding up over here on the Lightning Strike. Please go to our website, tlsradio.com, and check us out and do follow us on all our socials. Over and out. We'll see you next week, August the 3rd, bright and early on the Lightning Strike. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.